Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we are featuring the 2023 Power of Influence Roundtable. This year's regional winners are Gerry Gallagher of Delbarton School in New Jersey, Rodney Saulsberry of Whitehaven High School in Tennessee, Kurt Tippmann of Snider High School in Indiana, Lee Wiginton of Allen High School in Texas, and John Mannion of Mountainside High School in Oregon. In this discussion, these coaches talk about why they chose to be coaches, special moments that they have experienced as coaches, and how the AFCA has aided them in their development throughout their careers. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset.
Gentlemen, really humbled to be with you guys. I had unbelievable respect for my high school coach. It's probably what drove me into coaching, quite honestly, was the impact that he had. You know, I've said this before, prideful of my education, but my education is kind of what I know. But kind of who I am was developed from my high school coach through the game. Courage and commitment, sacrifice, all those great words I learned from the game. And so I want to congratulate you because you were selected out of all the high school coaches out there to represent our group, coaches. And so congratulations. I really want to kind of open this up and this kind of be some open dialogue, but to talk a little bit about kind of the things that really impacted your career and maybe some of the teams and why those teams were special to you. And I'm just going to kind of go right down the group here. So Gerry, let's go ahead and start with you. And let's talk about kind of your career and those special moments.
First of all, Coach, let me just say what an honor this is to be sitting here with these gentlemen and with yourself and all. Just to, when you talk about influencing people, that makes us as coaches feel special. Mm-hmm. So thank you and the American football coaches for that and all. Much appreciated. My career, it's a little bit unique in that I've gone back and become the head coach at both my alma maters, my high school and my college, and it's nice to know that the people want you back when that happens. And also, we must have been.
Understand that.
I was a guy that went to school every day, but I went to school every day so I could go to football practice in the afternoon, and really enjoyed that. But there's been so many special moments and special people. You already mentioned one thing. My high school coach, my dad had passed away when he was 37 years old. I was the oldest of 6 kids. When Gerry Gallagher goofed up, my mother went to my football coach, and he was the father figure in my life for the longest time. And just like you said, the guy that probably influenced me as anything about wanting to be a football coach and having a football family, treating kids as a father figure would and all. So that's been special. There's been a lot of special teams that I've been associated with. The particular one this year at Delbarton was just unique in terms of the group of unselfish kids that we had and what they accomplished. So it's a great honor that way.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, and it comes up an awful lot about kind of ownership and being unselfish. This team, Rodney, we've had conversations before. Yeah. Let's go to you.
That's the thing. Again, it's just so grateful to be here, and that's the great game teaches us. If we do it the right way, the game can teach you a lot about life. And that's one of the things that has resonated with us. And again, so grateful for AFCA and just the benefit of being here and being influential and knowing that that's the reason that we coach. Right. We coach to have a positive impact on the young men that we have in our sphere of influence. And we're hoping that we can continue that as we talked before about the game and the way the game is changing. But some things we cannot lose. We cannot lose the impact that a coach has on young men that they have an opportunity to coach. And just speaking of that and thinking about the first state championship team that I had, just looking at those young guys and the work and the dedication and the things that they put into play and something that can resonate for generations and want to have a beneficial impact on their families and their children. So that's the thing that really sticks out to me is this game the impact that you can have, the influence that you can have, and it can just keep resonating from generation to generation. And hopefully your players will want to be like you and become coaches and become fathers and great husbands and all those things in their lives. So we're hoping that we can continue to be an epitome of what it is to be a man, and hopefully we can keep that going.
How long have you been at Whitehaven?
25 years total as a coach and 20 years as the head coach.
I remember kind of coming through recruiting at times, and what a great program. But isn't it rewarding? Tonight I'm going to have a little reception. I'm retiring.
Oh.
And so I've got, I think, 28 former players that are in. They're college coaches right now, and they're all here, and so they're going to be at this little event with me. And I know that you guys are experiencing some of those kind of things too, of seeing those young people that you've had a chance to have some impact, have some influence on, and watch them grow up in your communities. And I know you've experienced that at Whitehaven.
Oh, yes.
Memphis, sir.
It's been a blessing to see those guys coaching, and uniquely our son is coaching now and getting in the college realm and is at Tulane as a graduate assistant. So
that's great.
Just seeing it come full circle and having other head coaches that I have to compete against that I once coached. It's exciting to have that going on, and that means you've been doing it for a long time. As Coach said, is that somebody wanted you to come hang around long enough where you can see the fruits of your labor.
Right. Kurt, same question. I mean, congratulations on being here with us. And let's talk about kind of your career and some of those special seasons.
Well, I feel like, in my career, been blessed to have very influential people as coaches, really from the beginning. From the first time I ever played football, my dad was, very instrumental. But then my first youth coach to my high school coach was a Hall of Fame coach. Had the opportunity to work with as a student assistant and then a graduate assistant, Bill Mallory, at Indiana, which is a Hall of Fame coach. He brought me to my first AFCA convention and, talked to us about this is the way this thing works and the expectations and, what a great learning experience those were. And then came back and coached at my alma mater and for a guy that was the defensive coordinator, Russ Isaacs, who's a Hall of Fame coach now in Indiana. And then was fortunate to be able to take over at that school, and just been blessed to be able to work with great coaches. And I think as a head coach and as an assistant, I became a better teacher, father, husband, coach because of the other coaches that I worked with on staff, or that, the great thing about football coaches is the collegiality that we have with one another at places like this, but also just getting together in the off season and talking about our job and the job being impacting, the kids that we coach and to be able to share that and the openness that coaches have. I've always benefited from that as an assistant and a head coach. And, the memorable seasons, I think every class of kids has their own identity and brings their own memories for me, and the relationships built. I think, the core of our coaching philosophy is on building relationships with the kids we coach, and those things last long after they're with us. And to be able to follow them as adults, as to see them become husbands and fathers, professionals, to see them further their football careers, I think that's what gives me the most pleasure is watching them do the things that they do when they leave our time together. And those relationships are meaningful. And whether we've had a state championship season or a 500 season, I think those relationships and those, time together has been the most meaningful.
It's interesting one thing that you said several things, but one thing that it came out actually in another one of these roundtables with the NAIA coaches. Our profession is really unique in the sense that we were willing to share all of our trade secrets. You can't imagine going to some kind of business symposium and watching Apple share secrets with Microsoft, right?
Absolutely.
But as coaches, because we care so much about the game, competitive people, we're willing to share everything, not just the play, but the nuances. That's right. And I think that's such a, great thing that our group is willing to do for the betterment of everyone else.
Isn't that a cliche that we have? None of us have done anything original. So everything we've stolen.
That's right.
We stole everything.
Everything.
Well, even as a young teacher, I would say, why aren't you guys sharing ideas with each other like we do in football?
Yeah.
Why isn't this model duplicated in other places? Because it's fascinating how it's worked.
No question.
Yeah. Lee, let's go to you. Great program. Lot of pressure. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, where I am now at Allen High School in Texas, it is a tremendous program, and it does come with a great deal of pressure. But I grew up in a coach's family, playing for my dad, who was just an incredibly humble guy that it was just so fun to, as we all did, I'm sure that, we mentioned living, having dads that coached us and just growing up in the field house, being around all the teams, and just it was just so fun being and around my dad, who from the youngest of age, just getting to see how he just loved everything about the profession. And when I'm saying everything, I'm talking about from lining the fields to doing the laundry to the relationship piece, and that's what. I didn't know that what I was learning was that, but in Texas, I've coached at 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, and I've told a lot of people that, and where I am now, Allen is the largest high school maybe in the country, certainly in Texas, right? But I've also been I started my first head coaching job in 2000 was at Bosqueville, which is one of the smallest, and there's zero difference between the two. I mean, getting to be around these wonderful men here tonight is, kids want to be loved. They want discipline. They want structure. They want to know they matter. They want to know they care, that you care about them. They want to know that you care about them when they mess up. They want to know you care when they do good. They want to know that you're proud of them. They want discipline. They want it all, right? And it doesn't matter if there's 100 kids on your varsity football team or 17 on your varsity football team. They're all the exact same, and that's what to me is really, really neat. And then again, just sitting here and hearing these men speak. You talk about memorable seasons, and having coached a bunch of them, there's so many different seasons that stand out. But this is one that Allen is an incredibly prestigious program. And I've been there. I moved there last June, so I came in June, and we're right into a season, and then we roll into this second season, and Allen has not been what Allen, Texas had been. And we go through this off season. And there's so many different times that stand out. But we had a young man on our team early in January last year that really just epitomized what the greatness of this game. And you hear about unselfishness, and that's really when I think about our football season this year. That's what stood out to me is there was not a single kid that cared about number of carries or yards or tackles or sacks or blocks or opportunities. And what's neat is, Gerry, you mentioned that, and we think that's polar opposite of what we think the world that we're living in. I mean, you ask anybody about this world, and we would say that's not the world we're in. And yet, that's the seasons, that's the kids that we're around. So I think that when we think that that times are tough, and you say that this year or last year or the year before has been really, really tough, there's a lot of hope. And it's because of our profession and the kids that we get to coach, right? And you talk about the power of influence, and I bet that all of you would echo that I'm sitting up here because of the influence that the young kids have had on me. Yes. And that's real, right? And that's encouraging about our profession. But it's just, there's so many years you could talk about, but that's what stands out to me is just the greatness of where we are and the kids that we coach, and we think that, I'm sure y'all have heard, kids have changed. They're not the same as they were when we were kids. You can't coach them the same. And then when you really stand back and think how wonderful they are, it's just really enlightening.
Yeah.
I think that's, I really appreciate you saying that. I'm glad it kind of got touched on in one of these, because someone asked me at one point in time, what was your greatest inspiration? And worked for a lot of great guys, been in some really interesting games, all those kind of things. But I said the exact same thing. It's the gratification you get from watching those players have success and the love they have for each other. That's your inspiration. That's where I was always inspired. The kids always inspired me. It wasn't some other individual. It was the kids.
No question.
So, yeah. Well, congratulations. I know how difficult, our association is based in Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
Been around Allen for a long time. Congratulations on that. John, let's kind of talk about your career, your season, and again, congratulations on being up here.
Thank you. No, well, first of all, I'm very humbled. I've been doing this for 35 years, and and wow, just hearing what these guys have to say, it's very honored to be up here today and with these guys. And interestingly, hearing you guys all speak, it just so much of what you've all said, resonates with me. My first high school, and one thing as I reflected on my own career, I've had 4 positions, in the last 35 years. The first one was at Milpitas High School, which is a school of 3,000 kids, urban high school right near where the 49ers home stadium is now. Then I went to Foothill High School, which was an upper middle class suburban type school of about 2,000. And then in 2010, we moved to Oregon. Silverton, Oregon's got 10,000 people and 3 stoplights. And then in 2017, there was a new public high school being opened in Beaverton, Oregon, and they asked me to come up and start that program. So I feel really lucky to have 4 kind of distinctly different experiences. But the things that worked at Milpitas, you're always making yourself better. You're always, but your foundational pieces of what we do, they worked in a small Oregon community. They worked in the Bay Area. They worked, and I think that to me was a lesson that, if you do things, the right way, if you focus on, and I know like at clinics, I've been doing them for years and years, like the new defensive scheme or the new offense or this, I think it's the consistency of doing the little things correctly is what in close games or in any game, it wins. And I think that, doing that over a long period of time, I feel like to see that, work in 4 kind of different settings has been gratifying. The other thing I would, echo here as well is just each team's different but seeing these kids move forward. And one of the things I've really felt good about is, now I've been to, countless weddings and different things, but I really feel like in some ways I have the closest connection oftentimes with kids who didn't really play much at all in the games. It was, the superstars are awesome and we love those guys too, but a lot of times it's the kids that weren't that I think really in a lot of ways get the most out of what we do. And I think that's that's something that I've really felt, I've seen lived out over and over for many years.
Yeah, you were kind of talking about kind of some of those core principles that I think all great programs are kind of built on, and probably trust and love and all those other kinds of things are a big part of that. And it's not just the X's and O's.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit. I'm always intrigued by this. 40 years ago, almost to this day, I was a graduate assistant coach at the University of Tennessee, and I came to my first AFCA convention. I was a business major coming out of college. I wasn't actually sure if this was what I was wanting to do. I was working on my MBA there at Tennessee. And, but I got so inspired by being around all these people that they love the game like the way that I love the game. And it got me from a position to where I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do to something that I knew I was going to do. This was what I was committed to the rest of my life. Right. And so it's part of my kind of love for the association or profession kind of emanates from that time frame 40 years ago almost to the day. I'd like for you guys to talk a little bit about kind of what those opportunities have been for you. What has AFCA done for you in relation to your education or your opportunities, networking, those type of things? Gerry, let's start again with you.
This is the first year I've brought my wife to the AFCA convention. So today, we were standing in line waiting to get our room key. Right. 1977 was the first year I came to the convention. And I'm a young guy, I'm 27 years old, I'm a head coach, and I'm in line, and right there, the person in front of me in line is Bear Bryant. I said, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, what have I gotten myself into here and all? So it was tremendous and all, and the other thing about it was my first year when I started coaching, 1973, the head coach showed me a manual, the manuals that came. I was so fired up reading through it and studying. We're a wide tackle 6 team. That's how far back this goes. So I wrote to the secretary of the American Football Coaches, and I said, is there any way you have back years of these? She had them since 1963. And I still have the box full of them, but they smelled like they were in the basement of wherever the American Football Coaches was. They were all musty and everything else, but I treasure those. And the American Football Coaches Association has been so valuable to me. As a college coach, I got to serve on the rules committee, and then I'm on the rules committee with Terry Donahue and Lavelle Edwards and Tubby Raymond. It was really special, and that's carried on in everything that I do. And the American Football Coaches Association it's at the top of the list.
That's great to hear it. One of the things that I did when I became the executive director 8 years ago, we went through, and all of those things going all the way back to the 30s, I think was as far back as we couldn't get back to 1922, but we had collections from the 30s. We digitized all that. And to this point, in our library, every coach can go back to that time frame like you talked about and pull up that article or that video from the 1959 convention. That's a little bit grainy, but
they're the best.
Yeah, the history of kind of what we've done, and like you said, the white tackle 6. While some things change, it's amazing how things kind of cycle back though too. Sometimes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Rodney, let's go ahead and talk. Give you a chance to do the same thing.
Oh, the networking is just amazing. Being able to see the transition of guys that you saw that was a GA at one point, and now he's a head coach somewhere. Just a blessing. I think my first year as a high school coach, I go to camp at the University of Memphis, and a young GA, Rodney Saulsberry, introduced me to a young GA that was Mike Tomlin at the time.
How about that?
And you're thinking at the time, like, okay, you're introducing me to this GA, but now you look, and now he's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So just being able to see the transition and how this game can change your life. And that's through AFCA. Just going able to walk through the lobby. My wife, again, she comes with me, and we go through, and she's like, do you want to just be able to just go walk through? Because you're not going to be able to walk 5 steps without somebody saying something to you. And just having that pleasure of meeting so many different people. And this game can expand from coast to coast and open so many doors of opportunity for the young men. Because our whole goal is try to use this game to teach the game of life and just to open doors of opportunity for other people. And this game has so much to offer. And that's part of what AFCA is there's a job everywhere in the game of football, and it's not necessarily on the field, and trying to show people all the different avenues that are available. So we're just grateful for AFCA for all the years I'm in, and as a young coach starting, and I still say I consider myself young now, but been doing it for a while. It's just so much opportunity that's out there, and so just grateful for Todd and the job that you all do, just putting us in these rooms together where we can just meet and congregate, talk football, and just get back to the grassroots of what this game is really about.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you guys both kind of talked about your wives, and we've been very open about allowing our wives to be a part of this, because at one point in time that was not necessarily the case. And I think it's been great for us and great for them too.
Yes.
I think all of us, when we come to these conventions, have a even better appreciation for our own job, right? Because we have one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we've all been in that other situation too. And I think for our wives to kind of experience some of those kind of things with us, I think it it heightens everybody's appreciation.
No doubt.
Kurt, let's go ahead and talk.
Well, you mentioned the wives. I brought my wife, and this is her first time coming as well. But I had, when I was a GA, Ellie Mallory was big into the formation of
Wives
Coaches Association, wives part. And so I can remember her telling me, someday when you get married, you're going to bring your wife to this. And, I was telling my wife that story walking through the halls earlier today. But I think I attended my first convention in the mid-'90s, and I was at a clinic talk. A Division III coach was up there talking, and I was intently writing notes, and I just noticed to my right was Don Nealon. And on my left, and this is literal, R.C. Slocum. I think he was the head coach at Texas A&M, and he was at West Virginia. And those guys were taking as intent notes as what I was doing. And it was a model to me. You know what? These guys are at the top of the profession, and then they're in here learning from a Division III coach, trying to get anything they can to get better. And that was a model for me from that point on, you know, the importance and the details and how much that stuff matters. And the AFCA has been great ever since then. And I think as part of the leadership in our Indiana Coaches Association, we've modeled almost everything that we do from the AFCA, from the way we conduct a clinic to the, you know, the positions held in the leadership and their progress. Those are all things that I think we've modeled after the AFCA, and because it's been such a good program, you know, over the course of time, and has helped us in the state of Indiana tremendously.
I appreciate that. I had kind of one of those similar moments when I find myself sitting right next to Eddie Robinson, and then I was fortunate enough to get on the board. Eddie being a past president, he would attend those board meetings, and we would sit right next to each other, right, just like we had at one of those general sessions, and just watching him write down everything. And I was like, man, he's writing down stuff. I definitely need to write down stuff. I don't know.
One of the first AFCAs I went to, just what you're saying, Eddie Robinson was in the first row right in front of the stage taking notes.
Always there.
Yep.
If you ever wanted to find Eddie, go to the general session. He'd be right there in the front row. Yeah. Lee, same question to you, AFCA.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to, you know, again, talking about wives, you know, and my wife, you know, comes as well. And I think the biggest blessing with your wife coming is it's hard being a coach, you know, but it's probably harder being a coach's wife, you know, and them getting to come and being around other coaches' wives, because in our communities, they're not around a lot of coaches' wives. Here, they're around a lot. You know, and they get to lean on each other and say, hey, you know, because they can begin to collapse. They begin to think that our world is so small and that it's so tough, but they get to lean on the resource of each other here. So I think it's great for wives. But then, but ultimately for me, what AFCA, the greatest asset is just the relationship piece. You know, I think that going back to when Mac Brown went to Texas in '98, I was coaching at a town close to Austin called Bastrop, and I went to, he had a spring coaches clinic, and I remember going, and I'm sitting in the front row, and I'm taking all the notes, and I heard a coach go up, and Cleve Bryant was up introducing the next speaker, and as soon as he finished, I heard a guy go up there and say, hey, you got everything set up for me? And he said, yeah, I've got you set up. You're working the camps. We're good to go. I'll see you in June. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what's that? And I'm taking my notes, and the next speaker comes up, and I went up to Cleve, and I said, what's it? He mentioned something about camps. Long story short, I worked camps with Mac Brown and Greg Davis the entire time Greg Davis was at Texas, and just being around those guys, I learned a lot of football, but it was so much more than that. It was just the relationship piece. It was. I mean, Mac Brown, if you've ever been around Mac, I mean, it's uncanny. I mean, it's really scary how you could walk by him and say your name, and this was me in his first clinic there, and I'm young and just know nothing about anything, but I went up and said, hi, my name is Lee Wiginton, and came back the next day walking by, and he said, hey Lee, how are you doing today? And I'm like, what? I mean, it's just crazy, but just he and that staff were so awesome. And then and another guy that I crossed paths with in high school in a town I was at, he was at another high school. He's now the head coach at Texas Tech, but Joey McGuire, if you don't know him, there's so many similarities between him and Mac, and it's all about the relationship piece. You know, it's just, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. But when they just have a knack of you walk up to them, and regardless of how you feel, your day's going to be better. Right, and so what AFCA does is you come here and you bump into so many of those guys, you guys up here today that I'm in awe of sitting here and just hearing your stories and hearing what you say, but just knowing that you're going to walk around and everywhere you're going to go, you're going to make someone feel better. But then that's just the smallest piece of it is you go back to communities, you go back to universities or towns or schools, whatever it is, and just able to spread that joy, and you get that, and it wouldn't exist if it weren't for AFCA and bringing us all together in this situation. So that's the greatest piece to me.
Yeah, Mac is special. I've known gentlemen forever, but you feel like you're the only person in the room with Mac.
Yeah.
You know, it's
unreal.
Yeah, it really is uncanny. John, same question.
Well, no, I mean, I think that I'm very grateful to the AFCA, and I think you mentioned kind of at the beginning about what we do is important, and I think that the fact that everybody is so willing to be open with each other, I think, is very unique, as was mentioned, as a field that we're in. But I think so much can be learned from others through conferences, clinics. I mean, I'm a front row guy myself, but I remember Bill Walsh when he went back to Stanford, had a Stanford football clinic, and he had a great staff he had brought in with him, and I was a young coach, and Tom Holmo, who later went on to be the head coach at Cal and a AD, I believe at BYU, might even still be at BYU as an AD, but he was talking about DB drills, and he threw out a phrase: "If you tolerate it, you encourage it." And it was like he was referencing like DB technique, but I'm like, that's more than DB technique.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like, you just get these nuggets, you get these things that you hear that resonate, and that he didn't even probably realize what an impact that little statement made. I mean, and at the same clinic was Terry Shea, who is an outstanding, longtime collegiate coach. He was telling a story about his son. He had some sons that played football, and he said his youngest son was his right-hand man. Came with him everywhere from like this high. And he said he got into high school, and he was a quarterback. And he said that Terry's like, as a dad, I was nervous because he didn't know how, if he was going to be able to make it. And he said the guy was undeterred. He was the kid trained, and freshman year pretty good, and sophomore year pretty good. He said he got to be a junior, and now he's a little bit, now he's on the varsity, and what's that going to be? And he said, I went home the first night, and I asked him how to go. And he's, oh, it was awesome, did this drill, did that drill, did this drill. And I asked him, I said, what'd the coach tell you? And he said, coach didn't really say anything to me, but blah, 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 he barged ahead, right? And then Terry says, the next day, same thing, and I got home, and at dinner, I'm asking him, and he goes, the coach didn't really say anything to me, but, go. So Terry's message to us was, like, as a coach and as a dad, like, the littlest pat on the back, would have sent this guy over the moon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Terry said at that point, he's like, I'm a head college coach. And I made it my goal every day to personally connect with all 105 guys. Yes. Did I get it done every day? No. Sure. But I heard that story in a venue just like this, and it made me, as a very young coach, say, you got to validate these kids every day. Yes. You got to find the littlest thing. And it can't be fake. It can't be good job, champ. It's got to be something that kid, that lands with that kid, that I know something about that kid that I'm going to praise him on. And that became just a real, kind of thing. And so I think at venues like this, even just hearing what we all, you guys have to say, it just, so much of it lands with us, And I would just, one other thing too about the wives, I mean, I would expand it to kind of the families even, because so much of, I have 4 children, and they, 2 boys and 2 girls, and they were as much a part of it, and I've always tried to make, my programs with the coaches really a family thing, and because I think that's
absolutely,
I think that when your children can see you doing something that you're passionate about, that can make a difference. I think is an awesome opportunity for us as coaches, and so I've really valued that as well.
Yeah. How many times do we hear it? Coaches' kids are special. They're different. They're different. Yeah. My first of all, wives. My wife and I got married the year that I started coaching. So the good thing is my wife has always thought that this is the way of marriage. And I'm blessed. I call her St. Patricia because she's been a saint. But my 3 kids have all become coaches too. The 2 girls are competitive cheerleading coaches, and my son is a head coach. And my son recently got a job at his alma mater, and during the course of the interview stuff and all, he said, Dad, one of the things I told him today is when I have a tough situation, something that needs to be figured out, there's 2 things I think about. What would my dad say, and what would my football coach say? And we're talking about influence again. And the other thing that I want to say is this: could we just turn the microphones off and let's just sit here all night and keep this
Keep
thing
talking.
going? This is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, again, I'm humbled to be up here with you. I congratulate you, the impact that you have. It's important. And I thank you for sharing with us too. And really, all of our coaches now have this opportunity to kind of hear what you said. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.